Marty Baker Williams.
Life is like a great novel. The further you get into it, the better it gets. This is a quote from one of the great sages of my time, Rabbi Harold Kushner. But life, like some of the novels that you find on a bookshelf, sometimes gets stuck midway. And as it happens to some people, they never really seem to produce anything much worthwhile as it goes on to the conclusion. In her book, Passages, Gail Sheehy described adult life in 3 different stages. The first, adolescence, to midlife, and that is like 19 and a half to maybe 35 or 45. It is a time of pulling away from parental control and finding a way to go about living the dream. And the dream is the life that you were told you should live when you were a child. A message you might have gotten from your parents or from a teacher. The second stage in life is midlife, ages 40 to maybe 70. It is the life after the dream has been challenged. And the final phase, the last third of life, age 70 to some people maybe 100, it's a time when you can look at all 360 degrees of life and see the patterns of the journey that you took. The transition into midlife can be every bit as crucial as the transition from adolescence, and in many ways more harrowing. Rabbi Kushner, in his book, When Everything You Ever Wanted Isn't Enough, said that midlife happens when a person comes face to face with their own mortality. It can happen at any time, but generally it follows an event. The death of a loved one, a near-death experience, a financial crisis, a divorce, just to name a few. But it is a time when there is a challenge to the belief of youth that there's all the future out there that you can imagine, to the realization that there is an end. There is really only so much time I have left on this planet, and how do I want to spend it? It is a time when the dream is challenged. Is this the life I want to go on living the way I've been living it? At that point, a person has an option. They can go on doing what they've been doing the way they've been doing it forever. Or they can reach out to uncharted waters and try to find a way to become a new and better self. This begins the quest for a more authentic self. It can be a very difficult journey to reach out and find change. And that is why it is generally referred to as a midlife crisis. You find some people that it seems they're trying to fix it, hold on to their youth by maybe buying a shiny new sports car or taking a younger spouse on. But without true change, the voices of discontent will continue. And ignored, it can lead to depression or even illness in middle life. But if it is taken on and changes are made, it can be indeed a time of peace and fulfillment, because someone has listened to that inner voice and reached out to find what is real to them, what is their authentic self. The passage that I know the most about of course, is my own because I lived it. I am a member of a generation of women that is called the silent generation. We were born between 1930 and 1945. Most of us were between 5 and 10 years old when the United States dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. And we also became known as the duck and cover generation because we had bomb drills in our classroom. It was before television, before credit cards, before computers. A mouse was something you didn't want to touch. And software wasn't even a word. We wore letter sweaters, saddle shoes, and bobby socks. We dried dishes for our mothers. That was before dishwashers. And we hung clothes on a line with pins before clothes dryers. My mom, like most, was a stay-at-home mom. And she never knew the option of having a career or going to college. She was a homemaker. She was a mother. She was a supporter of her husband and his career. Basically, she kept the home fires burning. And this was the life of most of the women of my generation. And it was generally believed that that would be our role also in life. However, some of us were able to go to college. And we knew we were as smart or smarter than a lot of those guys. But career opportunities basically eluded us, unless it was teaching, nursing, or secretarial work. And most of us gave those jobs up as soon as we had children. For the most part, we were never challenged to develop the true measure of our minds. I remember my midlife crisis very well. I was approaching 40 years of age. I was living the life I was supposed to live. In fact, my dream was working out very well. I had a lot. I had 3 children. I had a beautiful home. I had a husband I was supporting as he climbed up his career ladder. I played tennis, entertained some, joined a few charity organizations, and then it happened. My husband, who was going through his own midlife crisis, a second fling with adolescence, announced that he was divorcing me. I remember the moment well. It was a beautiful spring day that went dark. I had many scattered thoughts, but there's one I have never forgotten. It was the total fear that I was becoming a displaced mother with no skills to support us, or so I thought. I recall lying on my bed, no doubt engulfed in self-pity, and picked up a copy to read of a new bestseller. It was Gail Sheehy's book on passages that was followed by Pathfinders. As I read her interviews of all those women, I found myself in the lives of many. I realized that for some time, I had been wanting to reach out and find what was really real to me, to find who my authentic self was, and to find an avenue, a way to have my voice heard. And then I got the call. I was going to become an interior designer, a perfect outlet for my creativity. I went back to school, back to college, got a degree in interior design, and it has been my passion for the last 30 years. My middle life has been good, at times very challenging. Children, a career, now grandchildren. But I came from that very traditional past into a future of unlimited possibilities. Next year, I'm going to be entering actually this year, I'll be entering a new passage in my life. I'll be entering the last third of my life. I will be 70 years old. It's the only journey I have through life, and I don't really know what to expect. The 70s are known as the sage years, when you can look out and see that whole 360 degrees of your life and see the patterns of the way you made the journey. I know it's a time to accumulate and grow in wisdom. But the one thing I know for sure is that I want to die living. To quote Harold Kushner one more time, he said, "The best cure for the fear of life is to know that you have lived." Our life, if you will, is like a great piece of art. And if we lovingly tend to the details, we will be able to take pride in the finished product. When I was going through that midlife crisis, I hung a quote that spoke to me. I had it framed and hung it by the side of my bed. It was a quote from the Velveteen Rabbit. And now that I'm entering another passage, I think I need to put that back by the side of my bed, because it best describes the rewards and challenges of the journey. So to quote the Skin Horse from the Velveteen Rabbit, "It doesn't happen all at once," said the Skin Horse. "You become, and it takes a very long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily, have sharp edges, or have to be carefully kept. By the time you become real, most of your hair has been loved off. Your eyes have dropped out, and you're loose in the joints and very shabby. But all of that doesn't matter at all, because once you are real, you cannot be ugly. Only to people who don't understand." I believe that if we succeed in coming to the end of our journey, having become our authentic selves, then there is a very good chance that we will have led a life like a great novel that gets better and better the further you get into it.